Raj, you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Suhasini. Thank you, Ankita. Welcome, friends. A very, very good evening to everyone. Thanks for joining us on our first fireside chat. This is an initiative of Pragati Leadership with the industry leaders to capture insights on business and corporate leadership. Today is our first live fire chat, and I, Rajkumari Achtani, will be moderating this session. The chat is scheduled from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., and we would be having the last 10 minutes for your question and answers and inputs. We are very, very delighted to have you with us, and what better way than to talk about the crux of culture transformation and about creating amazing workplaces that are very, very high performing, very much the need of all businesses today. And this is the topic for the day. And we are going to get insights of culture transformation from Sudarshan Chemicals, a very, very aspiring company in the field of pigments. And who better to invite as a very special guest today than a leader who has conceived, propelled very successfully, and is leading the culture transformation journey at Sudarshan Chemicals. We are very, very honored to have you with us, Shivalika. Shivalika Patil, she heads the people practices at Sudarshan Chemicals. A little introduction about Shivalika. Shivalika specializes in OD and has 28 years plus industry experience in OD and HR, and has worked in diverse industries being FMCG, NBFC, IT, banking, and specialty chemicals, and with some of the renowned companies like Gallup Consulting, Tata Groups, HDFC, Kirloskars, etc. I don't even know where to start the long list of impressive certificates in the areas of leading change and organization renewal that Shivalika possesses. This, of course, includes her certification from the Harvard Business School. She's also a ICF certified coach from US. She also is into past life regression therapies, certified by Dr. Brian Weiss, and certified in Gallup Consulting, which is the Question 12 Employee Engagement Model, and Human Sigma, certified by Mercer Consulting in the Mergers and Acquisition Ready program, certified in competency mapping, sensitivity T group trainer from the ISID for social development. Shivalika has also done her MA in social work with specialization in labor welfare and personnel management. Apart from the fact that she's a trained mountaineer from the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, a trained Hindustani vocalist, and she's deeply inclined to spirituality and thus believes in centeredness and meditation as a way of life. My God, I'm just so tired talking about her certifications. Definitely all of us agree that she's a multifaceted personality, and Shivalika, on behalf of Pragati Leadership, a very, very warm welcome to you on our first fireside chat shows, Shivalika.
Thank you, Raj. Really, thanks for it. And actually, that was a reference sheet, but I never expected you to go through it in detail. But really, thank you, and really privileged to be with the viewers here through a medium of Pragati Leadership, and happy to share about the journey of Sudarshan Chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivalika. And as we all know, Shivalika, today we are talking of culture transformation and business transformation, and how culture supports business transformation. And culture, as we all know, is probably the way things are done. It's the belief, the values, and unspoken rules for how in an organization the people are expected to interact and behave. And intuitively, we also all know that a strong culture is essential for a company's overall health and competitiveness. And definitely, as we all know, that how do we define culture? It comes from a strategy and a structure. And as the very famous phrase, which is attributed to Peter Drucker, he said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And also, Shivalika, the pandemic has made it imperative for business leaders today to lay a foundation, a different kind of a foundation for new business models and ways of working. And it has accelerated, as you know, the way I see it, having worked in this area myself, that it has accelerated three interlinked type of transformations, which is affecting every industry. A lot about the adoption of the digital technology, a lot about the development of new business models, and a lot about implementation of new ways of working, more so because we've got the younger generation joining us today. So companies are now more and more engaged in one or two or all three types of these transformations. And businesses, as we can see when we read the various reports from the industry, that businesses that aren't focusing on this transformation of the culture supporting it, or they have ignored these signals or have failed to adapt quickly, they have the risk of becoming obsolete. And today, Shivalika, we are very, very curious to know from you the Sudarshan chemical story of business transformation and how culture has played a very important role in it. How has this journey been for you? What was your past culture, and what kind of culture you now need to transform that business and support the business transformation? And why is this journey so important for you?
Okay. A very, very relevant question, Raj. So I'm going to take some help from my colleague. What I would like to do is that show a video which actually tells everybody about what business which we are into, and then take it from there to respond to this question. So my colleague Tul, can I just request you to put on the corporate video, please? Just for every viewer to understand, what we are into, what do we really do as an organization.
It is said that the human eye can discern 10 million different colors. Honestly, we would have liked a bit more of a challenge. Be it the gleaming red of a sports car, warm pastels on the walls of your home, the multi-hued crayons your child used for his first drawing, a riot of color against the azure blue, the alluring shades of cosmetics, or the vibrant toys and paints that withstand many extremes. More often than not, it is we who imparted that perfect hue. In fact, apart from nature, every color you see around probably started off as one of our color pigments. We are Sudarshan, a truly global player, poised to be the leading pigment producer in the world. Today, with a burgeoning range of over 400 products, bringing every conceivable color to life, Sudarshan is marching steadfast towards its goal of being the premier color solution provider worldwide. Our quality products are already used in 60 countries all over the world, with the rest soon to follow suit. It is a journey that has spanned over half a century, a journey interspersed with a number of accomplishments. Sudarshan started its formal quality journey way back in 1984 with TQM. Since then, quality has formed an inherent core matrix of the organization, and standard certifications aside, has today evolved into a well-structured business excellence model. Our strong team of over 100 black belts extensively use Six Sigma, Lean and Innovation to achieve breakthrough results. Although we have made it a habit of reaching every goal we set out to achieve, we are not ones to rest on our laurels. Our sophisticated manufacturing facilities in the western region of India is spread across 600,000 square meters, producing azo, high-performance pigments, phthalocyanine and effect pigments. As part of the globalization strategy, Sudarshan has upgraded its manufacturing facilities with a large investment to include a state-of-the-art warehouse, new high-performance pigment plants, expanded effect pigments capacities, cogen plants, an ultra-modern employee facility, and constant upgrades to the $3.4 million effluent treatment facility, the largest of its kind in the region. At Sudarshan, an atmosphere of continuous enhancement is always in the air. What feeds this progress is the constant emphasis on innovation, introducing a variety of new products every year. We spend more than $4 million a year on research and development alone because we truly believe that even the best can always get better. With the best brains in the business at work, we are constantly improving the quality of our products. And although our facilities can boast of the best technology has to offer, we realized very early in the day that our strength was and always will be our people. And we value them to a fault, insisting that they prosper along with the organization, both professionally as well as personally. And it is these people who are with us every step of the way as we march resolute towards our mission. We believe that every endeavor we undertake should be spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and environmentally sustainable. Work to us is a celebration of life, and we are fully in touch with our core strengths to serve our stakeholders. We diligently promote economic growth and social development, and ensure that the earth we hand over to our next generation will be safe and livable. Therefore, our contribution to society has always been a matter of choice and never a compulsion. Our corporate sustainability activities are focused on three fields: environment, education, and community development. And the happy faces of the thousands of families it has benefited is truly its best reward. So come, be a part of our exciting journey where brighter horizons beckon and success is a given.
Thank you, Tul, for this. So basically, Sudarshan Chemicals is a pigment organization. We make these, these are colors. Basically, these colors are used in three applications. So as you would see, there is an applications of coatings. So our client would be, Asian Paints or, any of the paint companies, automobile companies. Then you have plastics, which was basically mentioned. And then there is the third layer, which is ink, and the fourth is cosmetics. So primarily, when you are a manufacturing based organization, and when you are also globally in different, cities and countries, almost 128 countries, what is really required is a culture which is having its roots, because we are basically an Indian, started organization, but it has to be seeded into a global environment. So under this context, I thought that I'll just talk about a little bit of background of why, this whole journey of culture started. So Tul, can you just take us directly to the larger purpose? You see, about 10 years back, we felt a need that there was a requirement to actually get into defining what we stand for, and what we stand for much beyond what typically organizations would talk about, which is vision, mission, and values. So our organization has a larger purpose, and which is growing together by being spiritually fulfilled, socially just, and environmentally sustainable. This is above all, and our belief is that organizations are like organisms which have soul, which actually speak. They have an environment which actually represents themselves in its whole. Today we are into a pigment business. There could be a possibility that later on we might get into some other business, but our larger purpose really drives us. And anything which we do in our organization should be aligned to the larger purpose. At the same time, we were also going through a journey of, looking at what's the larger vision which we are into. So our vision for the organization is being amongst the top three pigment players, We are already, somewhere near the 3 and competing amongst the top 2 pigment players. So it calls in for an organization and, which is into the business of global, but it needs to be once again very, very seeded into what it belongs. Because if you look at our larger purpose, it is growing together. It's very, very, larger, and it is more towards humanness, which it is linked into. And aligned with this is the mission. The mission, while has that we want to be a color provider, it talks about innovative and vibrant culture. So in our mission itself, the culture is embedded, because our belief is that ultimately down the line, it's only people who make it or break it. And that's why this culture has to be so vibrant that on a Monday morning, everybody should be excited to come to the organization. In around 10 years back, we said, okay, if this is our larger purpose, this is our vision and mission, what would be our values which will stand for? So we have very finely defined 5 values, which are SCCRT: seva, courage, commitment, passion, respect and trust. So while these may look like any organization would have it, what makes us unique is that in a global environment, typically many would talk about customer service, but we are talking about seva. We are talking about really going a step forward towards our customer and being there in the journey for them, and going outside and really customizing thing. And that is what we stand for. And primarily embedded into this is what our strategy is. We were at the strategic stage 3, which was around going global. So if you really look at our 4 strategic phases, phase 1, which was before 1989, so when we started, we were a Indian organization into the business focused on pigment. But then we decided that we need to go into phase 4, which is around global, in 2008, 2018. And that is the reason that the earlier phase was all focused up around technology, making the technology happen. And in phase 4 is the whole journey of wanting to really go global. So in this context, what is important is that basically, just go back to on the model for phase 3. Yeah. In this context, the model which stands is, what you see: higher purpose, mission, vision, values, all put like a complete temple. For us, this is how our whole culture comes together. Yeah, because many a time you may form a culture. Culture is nothing but the way we do things. And the way we do things are built around our values, our larger purpose, and our values, our mission. So this is what actually builds together and creates this whole culture which we have. So Raj, you talked about changes and being aligned to how strategies and how business is changing. So why I thought I'll tell you all this story, because it didn't started just yesterday and something emerged. It's now culture journey has been there for last almost a decade that we have been going through. We are a 70 years old organization, so it's not to again say that the culture didn't exist prior, but at each strategic stage one has to align it to what is the need. And this what you see in front of you is what made us the relevance in the strategic stage 3. Now we are currently in the strategic stage 4, which is being the number 1 pigment player, or amongst the top 3 pigment players, or being there. Now, the whole idea is that you are going global, but how do you become number 1? Which means in anything and everything which you do, you have to be the best. And it is not about best practice management. It is about creating next practices. If that is what is the business outcome which is required, then there is a need to further define this culture. Sure, you have values, but how do you really live them through? What is it that is the way we do things? How, when a salesperson goes on a sales call, or a production guy is meeting my customer who's coming from outside, what is it that he or she will do uniquely different, say, than our competition, which makes us really a global player? That is the phase which we are into, and that is where further the way we do things have been defined. And being a chemical organization, we have actually created like a formula. We call it PCE square. So, Tul, can you just take me to the next model? Skip these steps. I will come back to this again. Yeah. So this is how the model looks like, in PCE square, wherein you are wanting to be, we are an organization which is wanting to be a number one, pigment player. In
Right.
that, people first in a joyful environment becomes important. Collaboration and teamwork becomes important. Execution excellence and agility becomes important. Embracing change for transformation, like rightly as you said, even we have, newer generation coming in. So if you look at our whole population, being a manufacturing organization, the beauty is that you have a great amalgamation of old and new. So you have people retiring and you have newcomers who join in. How do they interface and work together? And that is what is really required. And this is further then, crystallized into each of its detail, which tool you can just share. And I'll take a pause there for more questions. So, everything is defined, and we are at this stage where PCE square now needs to be taken forward, communicated to people, and taken forward. The whole idea why I wanted to show is because I want the viewers to understand that culture is not something which is static. Culture is something which has to be aligned to the strategy. And as your strategy keeps growing or moving, I just shared with you phase 3 and phase 4, but our phase 1 and phase 2 had little different values because they were relevant at that point in time. They also went through little transformation, and they are today where they are. Yeah. So Raj, this is for the short question, a little long answer, but I thought I will share the whole story of how the evolution process has happened, and very participative. This is not something which HR sits and does, but leaders coming together, defining it, then taking it down to the people, taking their feedback, further sharpening it, then coming back, and several reinforcement mechanism to ensure that this gets reinforced. Yeah.
This is a very interesting model, Shivalika, and especially very impressed by the fact that you all have co-created this new culture based on the fact that you all are going global and being in phase 3 and phase 4. I mean, because a lot of companies, they assume that culture is just going to happen on its own, and it's a very neglected areas, and very few companies have a very structured approach to looking at their strategy and structure and new business needs, and then okay, in the future, what kind of culture will take us into the future, what is the future like, and what culture will take us over there. But Shivalika, particularly, my kind of tentacle stood up when you spoke about the Sudarshan philosophy of being, spiritually fulfilled and socially just and environmentally sustainable. And the little that I know about Sudarshan, I know this is very deep rooted, and you can see it in every walk of life, as you enter the organization. But I would love to hear from you that how does this Sudarshan philosophy really dovetail into the culture? And also, how do you ensure that, or how did you ensure that you have taken into consideration the expectation of the new generation which is coming in? So these are two questions really.
Okay, so the larger purpose of Sudarshan is, basically, you talked about the three elements. There is spiritually fulfilled, socially just, and environmentally sustainable. So on the spiritually fulfilled, be it an old comer or the new generation, everybody in our organization goes through a workshop on centeredness. So we have basically Art of Living, who, with whom we have tied up, and we have a customized kind of, program, which primarily helps a person to understand the values in context of the spiritual element. So if I talk about Seva, so how does Seva really bring in spirituality? Seva helps you to be in the present moment. But what does present moment really bring? How do you do a present moment happen in your life? Through your breath. And there has to be breath practices. So, spirituality, there are these workshops, and be it a newcomer or an old timer, everybody goes through it, irrespective of age. What it does to people is that they understand in this culture that it is important to actually have magnanimity and deal with people in a very centered manner. So then you don't have to tell people that yelling is not allowed, which is a code of conduct, right? Bullying is not allowed.
Right, right.
Yeah. So those compliances, which are otherwise covered through, say, a code of conduct, if you talk about being spiritual, then you would never ever do that. You don't have to then tell them, oh, it is important to collaborate, because, it is in spirituality, you talk about being a community.
Right.
So that elements actually fills up. When you talk about socially just, that's followed through our whole initiative of Sudha, which is our whole corporate sustainability movement. Once again, that has, 4 pillars, and Raj, you were the one who helped us also evolve that whole Sudha movement. But, CSR is, or it is not CSR, it's sustainability. So my employees actually go on the villages and are with people, following it through, and participating into the whole thing. Now, environmentally sustainable, we are a chemical organization. We can create
Exactly. Right.
havoc. We
Right.
can create havoc. So, then you don't have to tell person that, oh, save water. Obviously there are projects. Business outcome is there are projects on saving water, because it's something which is only diminishing. Or energy conservation, or we have things like energy conservation through our cogen plants. We have the largest cogen plants in Asia. We have windmills, we have solar. All that is a way of life. So people will start thinking about that. That's how it completely dovetails into the whole culture which we follow.
Yeah, this sounds so beautiful. I mean, I think that's why you see that in the real spirit, anyone you meet from Sudarshan Chemical actually demonstrates these kind of behaviors. Also, Shivalika, we are a little curious to know that, like to support the desired culture, all key systems also have to be revised to reinforce the new behaviors, that you have defined. And all of the important people processes, whether it is hiring or whether assessments or performance management or rewards and recognition or developing people, they must be also very carefully assessed and
Yeah.
consistently modified to drive the desired culture. So I'm sure our viewers would be interested in knowing that, how are you
Yeah.
doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
How has
So
that journey been?
yeah, absolutely. So in people, the whole people processes, recruitment, managers and above, we have something called value assessment. Okay, so
Okay.
on these
Okay.
values, you are assessed, and these are done through the classic model of interview mechanism, where behavior-based interviews, behavior event interviews are conducted to check on the validness of the value. So a person may be extremely good technically, but may not fit into our value, and you may actually decide that it will not work. I mean, recently I did have a very senior person, who was to join in the organization, and through our reference check process and through our interviewing process, even after giving an offer, we got certain references which said that there could be a culture fit issue. We withdrew the offer. So we take that very seriously. So that's as far as recruitment is concerned. I would also like to show you a little bit of how we do reinforcement. Yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
Tul, if you can just show the value magazines and all. So while he shows that, what we have is that lot of visual stuff which we do. So like you see that we are a color company. So you have this. We also have 5 colors for our values. So in our infrastructure, all our pillars are colored around those 5 colors, because we are a color
Oh,
company. Yeah.
okay.
Also, what we do is that reinforcement through visuals like magazines. So there is like this Sudha Soul. Yeah, this is a magazine where vision, mission, values, and stories around that are talked about. There's a newsletter. Yeah, so there are monthly newsletters, where anybody who has actually lived a value, those stories are published. We have an open link on which people can talk about their stories. They come to us and then those are actually shared. On a monthly basis, we have every value, being reinforced through communication and value stories coming in. We have value weeks also. So every quarter, we have a value week which is celebrated, not just in person, because in plants you have to do it in person, but we have salespeople across countries, so we bring them up on a common board to share around that value. We will have some fun activities as well as storytelling, and how they have lived a value with the customers, that being shared across. So things of that nature actually. And awards, R&R also, what gets rewarded also is manifested again. So we have value awards which are also given to leaders, or and we ensure that global mix is also taken care of. So it's not just that someone who is just an Indian employee would get it, anybody could get it based on a value assessment. We have 360-degree feedback for leaders and above, and on that, someone who gets the highest mark on any of the value, they are basically recognized. So these are reinforcement mechanism which also make the value lived, because one is just talking about it, other is viewing. So tatha drishti yatha srishti, so that is taken into consideration, and lot of reinforcement through different practices which are done. We have like a complete calendar, monthly what will happen, bi-monthly what will happen. And today, like for example, every morning we have something called Sudha Prabhat. Now that's around spirituality, one liners which come and which employees contribute. So these kind of, I think, reinforcement mechanism also further help.
Okay, I mean, I just like the fact that it is so deep rooted in our Indian culture. I think that makes it
We
more
call
and
ourselves
more.
Indian MNC. So we are
Yes,
very,
yes.
very, very
So
candid
really
about it.
aligned to that whole philosophy, as I can make out,
Yeah.
Right. You know, Shivalika, they also say that culture change is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It will take at least, I think anything between 24 to 36 months to kind of get people into the real feel of what the new culture is, what is the expectations from them. So measuring progress and celebrating breakthroughs along the way are very, very essential. Celebration part, I get it, but how do you measure the progress?
Yeah. So basically, measurement of progress is through, we follow the employee engagement, study, voice of customers through Great Place to Work, study. So recently we had Great Place to Work study, which we did. And this was an internal dipstick. So it was not done with the external agency. We are already a GPTW certified organization, but within that there is a model which we follow. So Tul, again, if you can share that, the model talks of three elements which are very crucial. One is the leadership part of it. Our belief is that whatever leaders really lead is what people really follow, and that needs to be measured. And that is the reason that when we defined the culture, we said the first measurement is going to happen on the leaders. We define our leadership as manager and above, and there we have 360-degree feedback which people do. But we also have where you might end up only covering, say, few leaders. But in the study we have questions around leadership and culture, which I would just share very quickly the kind of result. There are certain culture elements of thanking, collaborating. Just stay with the model, Tul. Thanking, collaborating, and including, which are also there, and communication. We are a very, very strong believer in communication at organization level, middle level and lower level, or topward or downward as we call it, because our belief is that culture is something which is not taught, it is caught, like the leadership.
Right.
You can do several workshops, but if people don't see it through in your actions, and that's why the leadership, communication, and all this collaborating, including culture, becomes very crucial. So Just scroll through to the presentation. Basically, we find that, inspiring scores, or, our grievance redressal scores, they have been improving. So it shows that we are doing good. Not to say that we are only doing good, but there would be also areas of improvement. So as we move forward, when you look at, say, communication, yeah, they do talk about, yeah, you need to communicate more with, say, overseas team, or adjust to different time zone, yeah, or communicate more to, permanent worker, contract workmen. Overarchingly, they are saying that you're speaking, you're listening, but these could be
Yeah.
improvement areas. So things like that, this input keeps coming to us. As you move to the culture element also, thanking, collaborating, while the numbers may show up, there are improvement areas which people, talk about in the verbatims. So this actually gives us a good, baseline to see whether we are moving into the right direction, or is there something more we need to do. Like, for example, the youngsters must be talking about, talking about work from home. We're a manufacturing organization. We don't have the classic, way in which you can work from home, but more on requirement basis. Like, for example, through the culture studies which we have been doing, we realize that at least on medical grounds, we should be flexible enough to give people who are non-production. I mean, those who work in shift, you cannot. But for
Right.
others who are, other functions, maybe on medical grounds, we can, give them work from home. Those kind of improvements actually really emerge through these kind of study. Thank you for
Yeah.
that, Tul. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the true sense, it is very agile. You not kind of like boxed yourself up in a
Yeah.
certain rigid kind of policies or systems. You
Yeah.
kept it very open. Shivalika, I'm also intrigued to know that, how do you deal issues where sometimes you see a disconnect between the talk and the walk part of it. We say, okay, leaders will walk the talk, but sometimes there is a
Yeah.
dissonance over there.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's take the value of integrity.
Yeah.
Because employees are very, highly sensitive to whether they believe their leader has got integrity or not. So, for example, a leader espouses that being family friendly is going to be very important, but comments and rewards employees who work around the clock, and they say, okay, you need to put in extra hours and so on and so forth. And this happens on a regular basis. So there's a disconnect between what they say and what actually happens at a grassroots level. And sometimes there could be issues of moral turpitude also at any level. So how do you handle these situations? Do you have some kind of governance around it, or
Yeah.
how do you do it? I mean, would you like to share some instances with us which may have
Yeah. Yeah. So
happened?
Raj, there are three, from a governance perspective, there are three mechanisms in which, any whatever, I mean, any culture fit issues can be identified. One is, obviously, we have code of conduct, and that we are very, very strict on code of conduct. The other is whistleblower, which is basically around any kind of, also, and sexual harassment policy is also there. So these are the policy frameworks, but it's, how do you really, one is, obviously, people can write to us and the committee is well known to them, but a way of really picking it up is through actually being with the people. So we have something called an HR ninja model. So this particular model, every individual in my function, along with the leader, is attached to a group of people. So I'll talk about two levels within HR. Say I am Shivalika, I'm the people practices head. I'm responsible for, say, a particular layer of people. Those become my people that I have to be consistently in touch with, not just for grievances, but also picking up any such challenges which are coming in. And so are my managers. My managers are the people who are then responsible for their group of people. Talking about incidences, we are extremely strict about any kind of, so you talked about integrity. Simple things, which are sometimes in organization, other organizations could be taken casually. We are very strict about it. Reference check process. So I talked about, one culture
Right,
fit,
right.
if that happens, then we will step out. For example, simple things like you have fudged the salary details, you have fudged the education details, or you have given me incorrect data on whatever is, asked from you. those are not tolerated, and not just tolerated. In many organizations, you would ask them to resign and leave. In my organization, it would be actually a termination, and it would also be communicated to people that this is something we observed about so and so, and we are asking that person to. It's very painful, but we have to ask the person to leave.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So that is how it is taken up. So what it does is that when visually people see that, oh, any kind of fudging is not allowed, any kind of fraud is not allowed, and that's published also, that creates also a understanding of the culture that this is not okay. Or for that matter, someone shouted on the shop floor. We don't like bullying or shouting or any kind of such things happening. You can be firm, but there's a culture in which, because in manufacturing sometimes, oh, I got little irritated and I
Irritated,
yelled
right.
at my person. That's not okay with us. So we would take action which is visible. See, my belief is that in culture, Raj, visible reinforcement is what people understand the best. You do hush hush about things, then you won't be able to reinforce those culture. And the leaders then talk about it during our several communication forums, like we have annual Sudha Connects or Interconnects. So I think that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Because these things generally get shoved under the carpet, I've seen
Yes.
most of the time. Like even
Yes.
if there are posh cases or something, there would be a tendency to shove it under the carpet. So I think this is a beautiful practice you're having, that it takes kind of a lot of strength of character from the organization side also to say that, okay, this is where we have defaulted and this is what is happening and this is the case, and this is the action taken. Then the message goes around very strong.
Yeah. And Raj, remember our values are SCCRT. C is courage.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to live by it.
Yeah, we need to give some time to the audience. I'm sure is waiting to ask you a lot of questions, but I have a last question from my side.
Yeah.
I have often heard you say, and even in your DP, there was, I used to read it. It used to sound so fascinating that, the climb to the top of a mountain is arduous and it is a difficult journey. But once you reach there, the view is so beautiful. I can actually sense the passion with which you have told us this story, Shivalika. Tell me what inspires you about this journey.
I think it just fits into my larger purpose and my own values. I think that is the simple thing. I think alignment of your own larger purpose and your own value, if that happens, then it's effortless. You are, at least I don't think I'm doing anything which is differently asked by the organization. It's just me. My own value is seva. My own way of looking at life is that direct and straight. So I think that is what the organization is also asking, out of all these values. So it just gels together. Growing together is the way I also believe it too. So I think it's just very simple.
So beautifully put, I must say that, Shivalika. Let's open the session for question answers. Let's see whether our viewers have any questions for Shivalika.
So they're going to put it into the chat box, right?
So
yeah, I will put them on the chat box. If anybody puts them on LinkedIn, I will put them here. Yes.
Okay.
Because we don't have the audience on Zoom. Yeah. Just give me a few minutes.
Yeah.
So Asni, have you got any questions?
So can I ask Shivalika from my side, what is the next steps? I mean, brought it till here, and then how do we kind of take it forward from here for companies to?
Yeah. So Suhasini, basically that PC square, which is way we do things, is something which we have defined, through a very participative way recently. We have been working with Anu and Pragati leadership around it. And I'm extremely thankful to the Pragati team to help us evolve it. Now we have trained the trainers around it. So we'll go through the cycle of creating awareness around it, creating workshops, and then again the reinforcement journey through already existing reinforcement mechanisms. See, the greatest benefit, Suhasini, which we have found is that people all think seamlessly then, and they work in a particular way. We know that there are certain areas which we are not good at. I think what we have also done is that statements which have been identified, there are certain things we know we are not good at. So we know that that is something which will take much, sort of longer period than something else. So that is what we will be working forward. I think all other mechanisms are well set. So they'll reinforcement mechanisms, we intend to keep the similar ones, and also the evaluation outcomes we'll be further strengthening with recruitment process strengthening, and we might in an eventual period of another year or so look at how we can build it as a path of growth, not evaluation in the PMS, but obviously getting feedback around it in the PMS, and then using it in the growth journey of that incumbent, especially where there are senior positions or roles in which people have to take charge.
Thanks for that answer. Thank you very much. And I think we've almost reached the end of the time today. So yeah, I think that Raj, please, do share your closing thoughts. And
yes, Suhasini, I mean, I am just so overwhelmed and really short of words on how to thank Shivalika for these sharing the very, very valuable insights with us. And what I liked is, a very, very practical kind of 1 hour we've had, where we've had very practical tips on, how the organization has actually done that. Because this journey is not so easy. When you look at culture building, it's a lot about posting aspirational values, posting words like, oh, we want to be agile, we want to be entrepreneur, we want to be accountable. This does not shift a culture really, and it's more at about what happens at the grassroots level. It's more about leaders walking that talk. It's more about the communication part, and it's a lot about the reinforcement. And sometimes, I mean, from HR perspective, I have personally had to take very, very tough decisions, and it's not easy, I know, doing that, letting go of people because there are issues of moral turpitude or low integrity levels, which mean a lot to us. I think it's not what business you do, but how you do the business. And that's where culture provides that lighthouse to us. Thank you, Shivalika. It's been such a joy and a pleasure having you. And we wish you the very, very best. We wish Sudarshan Chemicals the very, very best in its journey on this business transformation and culture transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And Tul, you can just put up the last slide. To all my viewers, I would be more than happy to respond to any further questions, or if you want to come and see us around in our organization with all the, way we really have developed a culture around physically also, we'll be more than happy. So I'm love to share this email ID and my cell number with you. Feel free and completely open for any kind of sharing, coming and visiting our plant, because one more aspect of our culture is also, diversity and inclusion. So we work a lot around that as well. So completely open to come and have a look at. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
That's very, very magnanimous of you, Shivalika. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.